In a world defined by economic complexities and uncertainties, Britain's GDP per capita at about $46,000 may seem like an indicator of prosperity. After all, it's a measure calculated on an individual basis, offering a seemingly accurate snapshot of wealth distribution. But beneath the surface, this GDP per capita often masks the harsh realities that a nation faces. Britain's economic history, shaped by centuries of growth and transformation, has encountered significant hurdles and challenges, leading to a current state of economic stagnation and a dire need for change. A mirage of wealth. Interestingly, Britain's economic journey is marked by its evolution from agrarian roots to the heights of the Industrial Revolution and to the complexities of the modern global economy. But even though it boasts of elite universities and pioneering companies that spearhead technological advancements, the nation's wealth remains heavily concentrated in the southeast, creating serious regional disparities. Also, behind the facade of prosperity lies a reality that contradicts the nation's economic potential. The aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis exposed the frailties of Britain's growth engine. The policy of austerity, driven by concerns about debt rather than productivity or aggregate demand, had catastrophic consequences. Real wages crashed and household income stagnated. But while Britain's once robust economy crumbled, other nations surged ahead. Also, after the COVID-19 pandemic, figures from the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, which looks at how rich countries are performing, show that the UK economy fell further than others in the first months of the pandemic. Sadly, its pace of recovery has not been fast enough to make up for the lost ground. Productivity woes. Speaking of poor recovery, low productivity stands as a significant roadblock to Britain's economic growth. Britain now holds the unenviable distinction of having one of the lowest productivity rates among developed nations. And as expected, the impact has been severe. British workers generate fewer goods and services per hour when compared with other nations, and with its past resulting in missed opportunities for growth and prosperity. This productivity decline began with the 2008 economic crisis and has since then set the nation off for years of missed potential. Ever since the financial crisis of 2008 to 2009, the rate of productivity growth has slumped, leaving little scope for wages to grow in real terms. This trend has been made stronger by prices rising faster even than nominal wages. In 2023, the 3% drop in the real value of regular pay between April and June compared with last has been the sharpest on record so far. This has made experts warn that the combination of falling living standards and desperately weak income support could push well over 1 million families into destitution by the following year. The number could rise even higher depending on the scale of support the government offers households facing dramatic hikes in energy bills. Voices as varied as money-saving experts have also warned that conservative leaders have not begun to grasp the level of social distress about to overwhelm so many, with families having to choose between shivering or starving. The role of investment. Talking about productivity, investment, a cornerstone of growth and productivity, remains a weak link in Britain's economic landscape. The nation's reluctance to invest in capital goods, technology, and human capital has left it trailing behind comparable countries. This lack of investment, coupled with a skills deficit, perpetuates the productivity gap. Elevated uncertainty, both within firms and in the aggregate economy, contributes to the investment deficit, creating a vicious cycle that hampers growth. Britain's economic challenges have no doubt been worsened by a series of missteps. Austerity measures, though intended to restore economic confidence, have deepened inequality and inflicted avoidable suffering. On the other hand, Brexit, with its associated uncertainty, has led to reduced investment, decreased exports, and declining foreign investment. Unfortunately, the long-term economic impact is estimated to be significant, further impeding Britain's prospects for growth. Yet the deep-rooted deficiencies of the British economy go unaddressed. Take the skills deficit in the British workforce, which is as immune to successive state efforts to encourage training as ever, worsened by weak middle management. Over £3 billion of unspent apprenticeship levy funds have been returned to the Treasury over the last 3 years. Also, colleges, the arm of reskilling and training, report that they are unable to recruit teachers or lecturers at prevailing public sector wages, and so are unable to meet demand for courses in fast-growing industries like robotics or AI. Also, the average number of days an employee spends on training each year fell by 18% between 2011 and 2017. Generally, the public service has been weakened by the austerity of the former coalition government and the lateness of its successors in loosening the purse strings. Education spending in real terms is projected only to recover to 2010 levels in 2024, and then only if the government is prepared to increase nominal spending in line with the sharp rise in inflation since the 2021 plans were signed off. Also, with the National Health Service recording a backlog of 6.7 million people waiting for treatment, including for acute and chronic illness, and the difficulty of getting an appointment with a general practitioner, people have become scared of falling ill. Economic growth. No doubt Britain's growth over the past 15 years has been poor. This goes by historical standards and the GDP per capita being less than 4% above the level in 2008. But while this compares to an increase of 40% in the previous 15 years, it is important to note that large Western European economies have experienced a sharp slowdown over the recent period. A political consensus that slows growth is a problem in itself and makes almost everything that the government wants to deliver harder to achieve. This is why it is often advised that the government should focus on longer-term structural problems. The low levels of house building, particularly in areas of high demand, is a severe constraint on growth caused by a rigid, localized planning system, while major infrastructure projects take too long and are too expensive. Another major problem with the British economy is the lack of focus on consistency and delivery with regard to implementing the numerous industrial strategies published in recent years, as well as a lack of investment in improving the quality and quantity of the workforce. While there is a general consensus on the need for action in these areas, other factors are more controversial. Brexit, for instance, is undoubtedly a drag on growth, with minor improvements to the trading arrangements with the European Union highly unlikely to deliver the major improvements to growth required. So the next government will have to decide whether that is all that is politically feasible, or whether, at least over the medium term, the potential economic benefits of a more ambitious renegotiation of the UK's economic relationship with the European Union outweigh the obvious political risks. Furthermore, recognizing the varying opinions within and beyond the main political parties over the economic benefits of the net zero transition is important. This is because continued policy uncertainty combined with inconsistent and incompetent delivery has raised costs and reduced opportunities. Also, poorly performing key public services, including the NHS and social care, are likely to reduce growth by reducing labor supply. Even though there is a degree of consensus on appropriate policy responses to these challenges, in reality, what has held Britain back in recent years from addressing these issues is not lack of analysis, but lack of political will, delivery capacity, and relatively poor quality of public administration and governance, with little sign of improvement on any of these fronts. Living standards. The high inflation in Britain has led to a lowered standard of living among the population. On the contrary, the low productivity and the impact on wages is a key concern, with wage growth falling below zero in the 2010s. This means if wages had continued to grow at the same rate as they were before the financial crash of 2008, real average earnings would be around £11,000 per year higher than they are now. In addition to low wages, the UK had greater income inequality than any other large European country. Why is productivity poor in the UK? Clearly, the UK needs to get out of its economic slump. This is why politicians of all stripes promise stronger economic growth. But experience has shown that promises are easier to say than do. So it has been concluded that Britain lacks a workable economic strategy. And although the UK's overarching weakness and poor productivity growth is widely discussed, it is also widely misunderstood. Some economists have blamed the UK's long tail of unproductive firms for dragging down the average. Since interest rates have bred zombie firms, that is, firms that are able to operate but not make enough profit to pay their debts. But research has shown that this inequality of output has always existed even when the UK was outperforming the US and Germany productivity-wise in the 1990s and early 2000s. So another school of thought believed that the productivity woes of Britain lie in the business inputs. Over time, firms have had a poor record on investment, on training up workers, and on managing their staff, which has led to reduced productivity. Interestingly, the UK also suffers from downplaying its main economic strength. Being a services superpower, the UK exports more services across the world than any other country except the US. In previous decades, Britain celebrated the wide-ranging success of its legal and financial service, its expertise in accountancy and cultural exports, and was satisfied with it. But in recent times, British politicians spend too much time wishing that Britain was a manufacturing hub like Germany. Instead, it has begun to focus on being a better Britain rather than a British Germany. The UK's chronic lack of business investment also needs to be tackled. Also, a stable macroeconomic environment and investment-friendly tax system are both likely to help. This means that the UK needs to leverage its existing strengths and services through how it shapes its trade strategy and where it prioritizes investment. With these insights, we can start to see where the path to Britain's future economic prosperity might lead. A glimmer of hope. While Britain's economic journey has been marred by setbacks, there is hope for a brighter future. Recognizing the need to address the productivity gap and invest in key sectors can kickstart the economy, while embracing innovation, reviving industries, and fostering a climate of investment can help reshape the economic landscape. No doubt Britain's economic trajectory, while historically rich and diverse, is currently marked by stagnation and missed opportunities. To reinvigorate its growth engine, the nation must prioritize investment, innovation, and equitable economic policies. By acknowledging the challenges and embracing change, Britain can transform its current predicament into a launching pad for renewed economic prosperity. The lessons learned from its past can guide the nation toward a more productive, equitable, and vibrant future.